Welcome to Shadow of Truth with your host, Dave Kransberg from InvestmentResearchDynamics.com and Rory Hall from thedailycoin.org. And today is Thursday, September the 1st, 2016. And this is our Thursday market update heading into the Labor Day weekend. And we hope everybody has a good time and stays safe. And here we go.
There's not any research out there that can justify anything other than we know the market is highly manipulated. And that's not even conspiracy theory. It's conspiracy truth, because there's been enough put out there by the elitists that let you know it's manipulated. I mean, it's obvious that it's manipulated.
Well, it's been admitted to by Deutsche Bank. We don't need to go to the elitists. We just need to look at the court case where Deutsche Bank said, yes, we've been rigging gold and silver, and our primary cohorts in this rigging were HSBC and Scotia Macata, period. I mean, that right there should tell you, that tells me everything that I need to know about gold and silver market being rigged. I don't need to look at anything else. So, I mean, that's
right. Well, there you go. Well, my point here is that it doesn't matter what statistical studies you have from history. You know, past statistical studies and theories don't apply when you've got a rigged market. All that goes out the window. And what I look at again, and I look at price. And what the price of gold is telling me is that these guys can't get gold any lower. And right now they're if anything, yeah, it is a fake rally, because they're trying to hold it back, and that's what they're doing. They're trying to control the rate of ascent of the price of gold and silver, just like they did when gold and silver bottomed and started taking off in the early 2000s, and they realized they weren't going to be able to push it any lower. God knows they tried. They got gold down to $250. Silver was, I remember seeing silver trading below $4 an ounce briefly. Maybe it might have even just been intraday, and they couldn't do it. And this is with an agenda of eliminating precious metals from the monetary system. And now, not only has it not been eliminated, but it looks like the Eastern Hemisphere governments want to re-indoctrinate precious metals into the monetary system.
That's actually getting some legs. But this is one of the things that I wanted to talk about, is there's been a new cryptocurrency just hit my desk 2 days ago, and it's called the platform is run by a company called Clear Matrix, and it is a central bank level cryptocurrency. It's called Utility Settlement Coin, USC. That wrote an extensive article around this new central bank coin or cryptocurrency. That is for and it's the difference between this cryptocurrency and all the other ones is that there's 4 different currencies that it is tied to. They're all at parity, which means that one utility settlement coin is equal to $1. One USC is equal to 1 French franc, British pound sterling, and euro. Those are the 4 currencies that it is running succinct with. Once again, designed specifically for central banks. And I find it very, very interesting that this is coming out right now in front of the G20 meeting that's happening this coming Monday. And one of the items that's on the table is how to eliminate the dollar. That is on the table. Not the dollar itself, but the world reserve currency system. And the SDR bond that you and I have discussed, that I've written about extensively, that's on the table as well at the G20 meeting. So now we've got a central bank cryptocurrency. We've got a new bond that's going to challenge the U.S. Treasury bond. And we have, on October the 1st, we have China entering the SDR basket of currencies. China, as we know, as we discussed endlessly, has all of this gold that is off the books. And there was an article I was reading the other day, and they were discussing the safe accounts and that's SAFE, which identifies all of these accounts that China national owns. They own all of these accounts, and that's where the gold that goes through Shanghai and Beijing that's off the books, it goes into those accounts. And they can move that. They were talking about how they could move that gold out of those accounts and move it into the People's Bank of China account with a ledger entry. They wouldn't have to move any of the gold physically at all. Just make a new entry, and all of a sudden their gold reserves go way up. And that has a direct impact. So you've got all of these things that are all lining up. And to me, Dave, it's terrifying. It is absolutely terrifying. Have you heard about this crypto?
Yeah, I saw that. To me, these cryptocurrencies, they're no better. It's the same as a fiat currency. I mean, you just reeled off. It's based on four Western fiat currencies. So that whatever it's called,
the USD, utility settlement.
It's a fiat currency derivative, is what it is.
No, I understand.
And it's just the West, throwing straws out there to try and stop a moving freight train. And the moving freight train is the fact that the Eastern Hemisphere is pulling away from the West in every respect: technology, military, coalitions, economic coalitions, political coalitions. And at some point, and I did see the SDR bond that was issued by China, and to me, that's an intermediate step by China to get rid of the dollar.
Yep.
I mean, think about it this way: China looks at the long haul. They don't care about next quarter. It's not like, okay, that's this quarter, but what are you going to do for me next quarter? You're only as good as your next trade. That was our saying when I worked on Wall Street. They don't look at it that way. They got a 50-year plan. They got a 100-year plan, and they know that if they just destroyed the dollar right away, start World War III. So I think maybe the SDR will be an intermediate step to replacing the dollar. So at some point it may function as the reserve currency, but it'll still have a dollar component to it. So you're not eliminating the dollar. And that's why the U.S. is pushing for it so hard, because they see the writing on the wall.
Well, I want to ask you this. What is the function of Western central banks?
There is no function, and I was actually on a radio interview in Denver, and it was kind of cool because I came on right after Dick Morris. If people remember who Dick Morris was, he was part of the Bill Clinton administration, and then I think he got caught with a hooker or something. And he's a good guy, though. He actually turned on the Clintons after he left, and for a while he was on the political cable news television circuit slamming the Clintons. And I haven't seen what he's written or talked about recently, but anyway, I followed Dick Morris on this show, and the first question was about how are central banks losing control? And I said, well, the very first question before that is, why do central banks need to exist? And the answer is they don't.
Well, they don't, and I understand that, but they have the stranglehold on the financial and economic and monetary systems all over the world. And my point is that what they do is they sell currency to the governments. Okay, so their purpose is to create currency for the government that they sell at interest. Okay, so if their purpose, which I don't agree with, think they need to be eliminated, just want to be clear about that. If their purpose is to create currency, and now all of a sudden they have this cryptocurrency, and in that, with the backdrop of that you and I have discussed at length, how they want to create a cashless society, now they have a new tool. They have a brand new tool in their toolbox to be able to push that forward. Okay, so we've got that issue combined with the fact that this new SDR bond is coming on board, and that new SDR bond can be issued by any of the member nations at any amount, and they can do with it as they please. So they can, which means that they can sell it to the government, they can sell it to institutional investors, and they can sell it to retail investors. Okay, so if the central banks start sucking up these new MSDRs, converting them into cryptocurrencies, and start issuing those out to start selling those to the government, who then in turn tells the citizens, here's your new currency and here's your card to use it. That's my point. That's where I'm going with it. I'm not saying that this is going to happen. I'm just saying that that is one of the possible paths that it could take.
Understood. Here's the thing, Rory. First of all, this whatever it is, this four Western fiat currency coin. First of all, this is the Western central banks building a sandbox for everyone to play in, and no one's going to show up to play in it except them. Second of all, central banks actually, they do and they don't have a stranglehold on everything. They do and they don't, and they're starting to lose control of that stranglehold. And third, central banks are usually typically short-lived. Okay, the United States is on its third central bank in less than 300 years. Okay, so central banks are just like fiat currencies; they don't last. I think the Bank of England, and again, I don't hold me to the history of this. I think the Bank of England may be the oldest central bank in the world right now, and it's been through some very rocky periods. And I think it exists in a different form than it did, say, back in the 1800s when basically, I guess, the British Empire was the Mac Daddy. So central banks are ephemeral. I mean, even if you look at the U.S. central bank, it's 103 years old. On the scale of human history, that's a speck. And what's going to happen is that these central banks are going to end up destroying themselves. They're going to eat each other and they're going to destroy themselves. It's just human nature, and it's happening already. But again, I go back to, the West can throw what they want at the global system, but they're not going to derail what's going on in the East. And Jim Rogers basically came out and said that in an interview earlier this week that was posted on Zero Hedge. And if people haven't seen that, they should listen to it, because he also affirms the fact that I said 2 months ago people should be putting their money in short-term Russian government paper if they can. And everyone looked at me like I was crazy. Well, a day later, Paul Craig Roberts called me back up and he said, you have any idea how I can get a hold of those bonds? And Rogers came out and said he's been putting a lot of money into Russia. And he said he would buy Russian government bonds all day long. So my point here is that everything's moving east. And so any of these gimmicky things, including this SDR bond, again, I believe it's an intermediate step for China. It's all just little gimmicks for the West to try. They're trying to recreate a sandbox that everyone will play in, and no one's going to play in it. No one trusts them anymore. Everyone knows how corrupt it is.
Well, they're still in operation. And I don't know. Degree of operation is really, that's the key factor here. They've lost control. You've got, they've had to resort to negative interest rates to try and stimulate economic activity. They've had to resort to money printing to stimulate economic activity. They've resorted to extreme propaganda. So are they operating? Well, not really. They're highly dysfunctional at this point. Well, and I understand all of that, but
right.
But what I'm saying is that we're still using dollars, we're still using Federal Reserve notes. The people in Europe are still using euros, and people outside of these two economies and outside of these two monetary structures are still using them. They're still accepting them. That's still going on, and what the G20 meeting is about is how to restructure this system, and nothing's going to change. But they're bringing it to the table. Everybody's upset about it, but it's still going on, and it's still in place. So as far as all the money printing and the ZERP and the NERP and this nonsensical program and this thing flying off the handle over here because of what they've done, it doesn't matter. It's like what you were talking about a minute ago with with gold and silver. Nothing matters except for what the price is doing. And for me, nothing else matters as long as the Federal Reserve, the Bank of England, the European Central Bank, uh, all the other Western central banks, if they're still in operation and they're still acting in conjunction with the government's treasury, they're still in place. They're still in play. Period. I mean,
Yeah, but it's this stuff. This is the type of change that doesn't happen overnight. And if you were to force it to happen overnight, nukes would start flying.
yes.
Do you think the people that are in control of the system you just described, do you think they're going to give up that power easily?
No.
No effing way. I mean, look at Hillary Clinton. She could be one bad fall away from her deathbed, and it's probably not the best thing for her to be running for president. And yet she continues to do it because she's so close to getting that power that she can taste it, and nothing's going to stop her. She's like a heroin addict.
Yes.
And the heroin's a block away. And guess what? There's a special for free today sign at the heroin stand. And you could chop off her legs, and she'd still figure out a way to try and pull herself to that stand. That's the seduction of power. But if you don't mind, I think, in my opinion, like all this stuff is extremely interesting. But we essentially have a collapsing system right now.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
think that's probably what's going to be the final wrecking ball in the Western hegemony, any kind of financial and economic hegemony that it has left over the globe. And we're seeing it right before our very eyes. And I've been predicting auto sales would start collapsing this summer, and they've started collapsing, and they're down again for August. Ford and GM post declines for August car sales. Toyota, I just saw a byline on the TV swing by. Toyota sales are down big. Housing sales are rolling over. The price of oil is down over $1 again today. And, I get tired of this Dr. Copper thing. It's like, come on, guys. Come on, fake economists. Come up with something a little more original. Oil is really your best mercurial measurement of how strong the global economies are. And it's been pushed up. The banks want to keep oil above 40 if they can, because if it stays below 40 for any extended period, there's going to be a lot of bankruptcies because they're sitting on bad paper that need oil to be well above 40 for that paper to be current pay. And oil's down another $1. So we're getting this cock and bull story from Stanley Fischer and Janet Yellen that the economy's doing fine, unemployment's at 5%, and yet every other indicator that we're looking at there, real world economic indicators, are telling us that the U.S. economy is starting to collapse.
I would say that it's crumbling at this point. I mean, it's well into collapse, and the mirage is starting to fade, and the brick wall that is behind the mirage is beginning to show in a way that is hard to deny. I mean, yeah, you've got pockets in the United States where the economy is doing fine, but by and large, it's not. By and large, it is a total disaster. I mean, there was another article yesterday, I believe, that came out about pension funds collapsing. I think it was Illinois is completely kaput at this point. I mean, it's every day there's some new major bullet point that says everything is broken and everything is crumbling and everything is falling apart right now as we speak. I mean, it's unbelievable. And for people to actually believe that otherwise, I don't know how to reach them.
Well, you can't. People won't. Anyone who has a job and is getting paid well and can still make their mortgage payment and their expensive car lease payment and still pay for their kids to do sports, everything's fine as far as they're concerned. But as soon as it's hitting the lower end of the income demographic, and it's hitting the middle class, And the headline just came across: Walmart's laying off 7,000 white collar office workers. Well, didn't they just have supposedly great quarterly results? Shouldn't they be hiring, not firing?
Yeah, because the economy's doing great. It's only 5% unemployment. I mean, how can you be firing 7,000 people when the unemployment rate is at 5%? Shouldn't they be hiring 7,000?
Exactly.
Shouldn't Cisco be hiring 20%? Shouldn't they be increasing their labor pool by 20%? But no, they're laying off 14,000 people. I mean,
wait till the autos start laying off. Then it's going to really get interesting.
Oh my God!
Anyway, I didn't mean to shift gears there, but
it's all good.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like, I think the gold issue will take care of itself. The market's been repudiating the manipulators. They happen to get a little period, a window here when the global seasonally the global demand for physical gold is in a lull, especially in India. And I mean, I've sent you the numbers. China's starting to pick back up. India's starting to pick back up. And what happens is every year when we get a little bit of a downdraft in late July and most of August, all of a sudden you start seeing the sky is falling articles coming out about the sector. And it's like, oh, brother, here we go again.
Yeah. Yeah, there was one that was sent to me yesterday or today about the propaganda. I mean, it was pure propaganda piece about how ways to invest in gold, albeit at your own peril. That's the headline.
Yeah, I saw that. I was just, that's what made me think about it. Every year at this time of year, the negative gold propaganda comes out.
Yeah. Yeah. If you buy it, you better be buying the paper gold, the ETFs, because they're safe.
Right. And the reality is the gold will take care of itself. If I'm wrong, and who knows, I could be wrong. I don't know. I mean, I'm one PhD dissertation away from being considered an economist too, and I'll never do it. So maybe I'm foolish. Maybe I won't do it because then it'd be confirmed that I'm foolish if I got a PhD in economics.
It would be known by the world then, Dave.
But let's assume that I'm not wrong about gold, and the market will take care of itself. It doesn't matter whether it's manipulated or not.
Yeah, I'm not arguing. I mean, I'm not going to argue with any of it. I mean, I listen to what everybody has to say and take it from there. I mean, if somebody says we're going to have single digit silver and triple digit gold, then okay. Like I said on Monday, not 1 ounce has changed in my vault, and it's not going to. It
should be changing. You should be using this pullback to add to the ounces in your vault.
They should be like rabbits. They should be multiplying. Well, I guess that's as good a spot as any. Once again, we're getting to leave them with laughter. So hopefully you'll have a good weekend, Dave, and we can pick it up on Monday and see where we stand.
Well, that brings up an interesting question here because I almost forgot about it this morning too, but this is a long weekend coming up. So,
oh yeah. Well, I guess with this being Labor Day weekend, everybody will be not laboring on Monday, and hopefully they won't be laboring over the weekend as well. And Dave, I guess we'll pick it up on next Thursday, on Thursday, September the 8th. If that works for you.
That sounds great. You have a great long Labor Day weekend, and don't labor too hard over this BS. Go out and have some fun.
That I will. All right, buddy. Well, I guess we'll talk with you soon.
Sounds good.